a lot of running backs to mention for honorable mention. Just a lot of running backs that kind of stepped up when running backs were injured, starting running backs, and I mean they just had great numbers. So this is going to take a little longer than the quarterbacks. So just hanging on there. First of all, we got Devin Singletary. We got some Bills highlights from him, but he was a Texan last year, as you can see. He is a New York Giant now. He has a 3-year, $16.5 million contract with the Giants. 26 years old, 4 years in the league. Played 17 games, 216 rushes for 898 yards, 4.2 average, 4 touchdowns, 1 fumble, 30 receptions for 193 yards. In the playoffs versus Cleveland and Baltimore, he had 22 rushes for 88 yards, 4.0 average, 1 touchdown, 8 receptions for 52 yards. No accolades, but he's a running back that is super small, but super elusive, and you need to make sure you know where he's at. He's a great part of the offense. Definitely can stretch the offense when you need it. Definitely can kind of dump pass it to him, and he can run it for some big yards. Definitely a guy that you want on your team. I think he could be very vital. Is he a starting running back? I don't think he's really had the chance of really having that kind of starting running back numbers, but I do believe that he has a really good chance of being effective out there in New York. So overall, though, he's deserving of an honorable mention. Okay, the next one, James Conner. First of all, great story from his beating of cancer to where he's at right now. Powerful running back, power back for sure. He's got some speed to him. Definitely has made the Cardinals um, semi fun to watch. I mean, he does have some entertaining runs. And I mean, he's just one of those guys that you keep him for around. Definitely, give me the ball and I run straight through the middle, and we'll see what happens. See if anyone can bring me down. Um, James Conner is 29 years old, though, 6 years in the league. He's got 1 year, $8.93 million left in his deal, so we'll see if they resign him or if he goes elsewhere. He played in 13 games, 208 rushes, 1,040 yards, 5.0 average, with 7 touchdowns, 27 receptions for 165 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And yeah, no playoffs. So overall, that's what we got. No accolades, no nothing like that. But I mean, just a solid running back. Arizona definitely enjoys, um, to watch. Definitely, I think the league should enjoy to watch him while we can. Overall, we'll see what he does this year, and I'm excited. Hopefully, he cracks 1,000 yards again. Damien Pierce. Last year was an honorable mention. This year's an honorable mention. Definitely, probably not going to be an honorable mention next year just because of the fact that, well, they brought in Joe Mixon in Houston. I think Damien Pierce is kind of like, in a way, it feels like the same story as James Robinson when he went to the Jaguars, posted 1,000 yards. Damien Pierce didn't post 1,000 yards, but he had the same similar style of running, and then they kind of just did him dirty by just bringing in another running back that's pretty nice. Lowering his carries, and then all of a sudden having a big time free agent come in or a draftee and then just taking his job entirely. So I feel like it's one of those stories. I still think he's amazing, though. He's a great power bulldozer kind of running back. I feel like someone could use him, definitely. But he is where he is in Houston. He's 24 years old. He's 1 year in the league. 2 years, $3.18 million left in his contract. 14 games he played, 145 carries for 416 rushing yards, 2.9 average, and 2 touchdowns. Um, yeah, I mean, definitely didn't do much in the postseason. No accolades or nothing. So that's where Damian Pierce lands. I just really hope he's not the same like James Robinson because James Robinson is not really relevant in the league as of right now, which is sad. But had the same kind of similar storyline on that. But still a good running back. We got DeAndre Swift as an honorable mention. Last year was not placed in that category, even though he's had a pretty good career in Detroit. I don't think they really utilized him that much. In Philly, I think they utilized him okay. I mean, they had a lot of weapons around him. DeAndre Swift's just another one of those sad running back stories that they just don't use running backs like they used to anymore. So overall, you're gonna get what you get. I feel like in Chicago, I think he could be really good. I think that he is the starting running back. I think he could still crack 1,000 yards for sure. I don't know how insane he's going to go, because they have so many weapons there, just like Philadelphia had. I don't see him having crazy numbers, so I don't know if he's really going to be a top 10 dude, but he's a solid back, man. 25 years old, 3 years in the league. He's got 3 years, $24 million left in his contract. 16 games that he played, 229 rushes for 1,049 rushing yards, 4.6 average, two fumbles, 5 touchdowns, uh, 39 receptions for 214 yards and a touchdown, one fumble and one lost. Versus the Tampa Bay Bucks in the wild card, he had 10 rushes for 34 yards, averaging 3.4 a carry, and he was a Pro Bowler. So again, if that doesn't say enough about him, I'm saying he's underrated. I think he really is a stud. I think that's a good signing for Chicago. But I mean, like I said, running backs do not get the ball like they once did. So you're gonna get what you get. 1,000 yards is pretty good for any guy right now. So overall, yeah, he's honorable mention for sure. Next, we got a firecracker in here. Kyren Williams, honorable mention. We got a guy that definitely can make a top 10 list for sure. He's young. He's young enough to do that. I think he's got a huge impact on the Rams offense. I think as soon as we start to see, Matt Stafford decline, which I mean, kind of is, but kind of isn't. You know, I think they're going to use him and utilize him a lot more in this offense. I think it might be a run first offense, unless they pick up some crazy QB in the draft later. But Kyren Williams, 23 years old, 1 year in the league, 2 years, $2.83 million, 12 games that he played, 228 rushes for 1,144 rushing yards, five average for carry, 12 touchdowns, two fumbles, and one lost. He also had 32 receptions for 206 yards, three touchdowns, one fumble, one lost. Versus Detroit in the wild card, he had 13 rushes for 61 yards, 4.7 per carry, second team All Pro Bowler. Again, that is what you want. That is a very, very underrated football player, and I definitely see him being a top 10 in the next year or two if he continues to do what he does. Definitely a huge impact for the Rams. Next, we got James Cook, another young stud that definitely can be a top 10 guy. Definitely a guy that I think Josh Allen's going to utilize a lot more this year, especially with the receiving core going a little downhill, especially with losing Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. That's huge. I do believe they're going to run the ball, but I also think they're going to use him in a way of the passing game, which Josh Allen loves dumping and dinking and diming over there. So definitely James Cook will have a high impact. So I could see him really being a top 10 guy this next year. 24 years old, 1 year in the league, 2 years, $3.44 million left in his contract. Played 17 games, 237 carries for 1,122 yards, 4.7 average per carry, two touchdowns, three fumbles, and one loss. He also had 44 receptions for 445 yards and four touchdowns with one fumble, one loss. In the playoffs, played the Steelers, played the Chiefs. He had 36 rushes for 140 yards. He had 3.9 average per carry, eight receptions for 26 yards, and he was a Pro Bowler. So overall, great year. Had a great year, and I really enjoy this youth full of running backs that are coming in the league. Hopefully, they can turn the tide, and hopefully, we can see more running backs take over, and we can kind of have a transition where running backs could be pretty useful to the league again. So, yeah, overall, good player, good player. So we got David Montgomery out here, honorable mention. Last year, same thing, honorable mention. He continues to be relevant just because of the power and the touchdowns that he creates, man. Huge, second down kind of guy. That power back for the Detroit Lions they need. They got Jahmyr Gibbs and they got him, and it's been working really well. Sharing the ball with both of them. David Montgomery, like I said, absolute workhorse. Great at breaking tackles. Just really hard to bring down kind of guy. And he's been doing that when he was in Chicago as well. So he's 26 years old, 4 years in the league, 3 years, $21.02 million. 14 games played, 219 carries for 1,015 yards, 4.6 average per carry, 13 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, and 1 loss. He also had 16 receptions for 117 yards. In the playoffs, they played the Rams, the Bucks, and the Niners. He had 39 rushes for 183 yards and 4.7 average per carry with 2 touchdowns. No accolades. I don't. I'm not surprised he doesn't have any accolades. I mean, he's a second option back, but can have first option running back numbers, But overall, I mean, he's just really good. The way they utilize him definitely brings that boom factor, man. That thunder, and that's what you want, man. You want that. You want a second running back who's a power back. I feel like those are always um, really useful, especially in the red zone, end zone. So, now overall, I have David Montgomery. He has made a name for himself. He's still there. Will he ever get a starting running back position? I don't know. But as of right now, he's relevant. He's relevant as an honorable mention. Next, we got a guy, Raheem Mostert, man, honorable mention. Finally, back on a relevancy list. I think he's just had an up and down year. I mean, up and down career, excuse me. Just with playing for the Niners and kind of moving around a lot. I think a lot of people kind of didn't really know how to utilize the guy. It's just pure speed with this man, just pure speed. Definitely has a knack for knowing where the end zone's at. And yeah, I mean, he's also hard to bring down. Surprisingly, he's hard to bring down just because of how quick he is, and still does it at his age, man. With running backs kind of dying off in the late 20s, But you look at Raheem Mostert, 32 years old, 8 years in the league, 2 years, $9.07 million. 15 games that he played, 209 carries for 1,012 yards, 4.8 average per carry, 18 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, 1 loss. He also had 25 receptions for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. Versus Kansas City in the wild card, he had 8 rushes for 33 yards, 4.1 average per carry, no touchdowns, but he was a Pro Bowler. He was also the NFL leader in rushing touchdowns. So again, has a knack for the end zone, has a knack for faking out defenders, and he's just extremely useful in this Miami team that is basically a Olympic track team at this point. Just overall, yeah, great way they utilize him. He's a great football player. I don't see him ever being a top 10 guy, but he's very, very impactful for the team. Next, we got a person that is honorable mention. That was an honorable mention last year, and I think he definitely had a better year this year, and I think he continues to get better as a elusive back with his speed. Also has the ability of being a pretty good receiving back for him. Overall, it just makes Trevor Lawrence's job a lot easier. I think they're going to be lethal this year, especially when they added Brian Thomas Jr. to the mix. They already have Christian Kirk up in there. And they already have Gabe Davis, which is signed in free agency, and now you got Travis Etienne Jr. It's looking like a good offense with Evan Ingram as well. So I mean, yeah, Trevor Lawrence has no excuse. This team has to make the playoffs. I do believe that. Definitely, Travis Etienne is going to be a focal point of this offense. He's just a great. I'm gonna just run past you guys, and I don't care kind of mentality, and he's got some great highlights up in there, man. He's an entertaining player to watch for sure. He's 25 years old. He's been in the league for 2 years. 2 years, $10.24 million on his contract. 17 games played, 267 carries for 1,008 rushing yards, and 3.8 average per carry with 11 touchdowns. He also had 58 receptions for 476 yards and 1 touchdown. He was eighth in offensive player of the year. So it really does show the impact that he does make on a week to week basis. And yeah, he's a fun player to watch. I'm excited to see what he does this year. Next, totally messed up on the graphic of his name and all that because he's not a Cowboy anymore. He's a Tennessee Titan. First of all, I think that's a semi okay pickup for Tennessee just because it's not Derrick Henry at all, at all. But it is a solid running back that can give you 1,000 yards. Overall, we're gonna see what he can do, especially with being in Tennessee with an offensive line that's a lot differently built than the Dallas Cowboys are. So overall, he is a fun player to watch. They definitely throw him pitches a lot for him to just kind of get 10 to 15 yards. I mean, he's got the speed to do it. Definitely underrated receiver in my opinion. I think he could definitely catch the ball at a pretty good rate. Just overall, a guy that they like to kind of have in the mix. And I think for Tennessee, if they put him there, I mean, he's going to be a huge piece to that offense because they don't have as many weapons as Dallas did. So, where will he be and how will he perform? And we've kind of seen the story before with DeMarco Murray. Is he just going to fall out? And we don't even know anything about him. We'll see. I think he's still entertaining though. Tony Pollard, 27 years old, 4 years in the league, uh, 3 years, $24 million left in his contract. That's the signing that he got for the Titans. 17 games played, 252 rushes for 1,005 yards, 4 average, 6 touchdowns, one fumble, one lost, 55 receptions for 311 yards and 2 fumbles. In Green Bay in the wild card, 15 rushes, 56 yards, 1 touchdown, 3.7 average with 7 receptions and 29 yards. So we'll see what happens with him. Okay, then we got Breece Hall. So Breece Hall, honorable mention, definitely last year could have been there, could even been top 10 if he did not suffer an injury. Definitely a guy that I do believe can crack a top 10 list for sure. I just think his impact is enormous for the Jets. I think he's kind of their X factor over there. Wherever they go, it's like where the team's going to go. I think they have some solid foundation. I definitely believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to be slinging it. I also believe that he's going to be using how he used before with Aaron Rodgers and I'm trying to think his name, Grant, I believe. Like he was able to use them in a good way. I think Brees Hall has that ability to kind of catch from the backfield and do what he's got to do. Definitely, like I said, straight speed, man, great speed. Will just outrun anybody, any defender over there, and that's impressive. He's 22 years old, 2 years in the league. It's 2 years, $5.13 million. 17 games that he played, 223 rushes for 994 yards, 4.5 average per carry, with 5 touchdowns and 2 fumbles. He also had 76 receptions for 591 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he was seventh in comeback player of the year after that injury. Yeah, overall, yeah, he's a stud, and yeah, I will not be shocked if he is a top 10 guy next year. So next, we got Rashad White, honorable mention. Last year was not mentioned. It's nice to see him on the list as well. Another guy that will be pretty effective with the Travis Etienne Juniors and obviously with the Bijan Robinsons, um, the DeAndre Swifts. Definitely just a new class of running backs that just they got some power to them. They don't look as strong, but I mean they are very doubted um, as running backs do. They definitely got that speed, though, top class speed there. Definitely can juke you out of your shoes, that kind of thing. Now, Rashad White, I mean, he's not like some extremely special running back, but I mean, he's a guy that was putting up some pretty good numbers this past year. So it's a guy that you need to watch out and look for, especially with fantasy football. And I mean, if you're a football fan in general, you'll love this kind of guy, dude. Rashad White's 25 years old, 2 years in the league. He's got 2 years, $3.03 million left in his contract. 17 games played, 272 carries for 990 yards, a 30.6 average yards per carry. So not fantastic there. 6 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, one lost. He also had 64 receptions for 547 yards, 3 touchdowns, one fumble, one lost. In the playoffs against the Eagles and Lions, he had 27 carries for 127 yards, 4.7 average, 5 receptions, 39 yards, and one touchdown. So overall, pretty good dude, and definitely a guy you need to watch. The next, we got the top running back from the draft class last year. A guy that definitely wasn't utilized to the extent that he should have been utilized. Honestly, based on the fact that they had Desmond Ritter, who is not the guy, I think that definitely affected him. I think this guy has a lot of potential. I think he can be a candidate for a rushing title. I think he has the ability of making an impact on an offense, and I think having Kirk Cousins there, man, to dump it off to him to hand it off to him, and then with all the weapons there that they're going to be focusing on the opposing side, Bijan Robinson is going to have his time to shine and prove that pick that he was so highly drafted on. But Bijan's got that speed, man. Definitely that lucidness is amazing. Definitely a guy that has a great break and tackle type of ability. And yeah, like I said, Atlanta's going to be dangerous, dude. Definitely adding Bijan Robinson is just icing on the cake. Bijan Robinson's 22 years old, 1 year in the league. He has 3 years, $17.95 million left on that rookie deal. 17 games played, 214 carries for 976 yards, 4.6 average per carry with 4 touchdowns. The fumbling issue with 4 fumbles and 3 lost definitely needs to be fixed, but he was a rookie, so give him some breathing room here to fix his mistakes. I think he's going to be fantastic regardless. 58 receptions for 487 yards and 4 touchdowns. Obviously, Atlanta did not make the playoffs, but he was fifth on the offensive rookie of the year. Overall, definitely a guy that you want to watch next year. I think he's going to be really impactful for this team. Man, Jahmyr Gibbs, another rookie from the previous draft class. Definitely not as hyped as Bijan, but also had the potential to impact the league. And I mean, I think he's had a better year with the Lions than Bijan with Atlanta, obviously, because they're more built for win now mentality. Definitely having him with David Montgomery is a great 1-2 punch. Jahmyr Gibbs definitely showed his flashes of some brilliant work running the ball. Definitely tough, a lot tougher than you think when you look at him. Um, definitely, definitely great speed. Great break tackles. Tough guy, man. Just tough guy. We'll go down the middle and we'll show you what he can do. Definitely bounce to the outside and kill you with that. Just overall, just a guy that is, he's slippery, dude. Slippery to tackle and just really impactful. And I think his elevation of his impact on this team is just going to get even better and better and better. While also trying to utilize David Montgomery in the run game as well. Jahmyr Gibbs is 22 years old, 1 year in the league, 3 years, $19.44 million left on that rookie deal. 15 games played, 182 carries for 945 yards, with a 5.2 average yards per carry, 10 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, 1 lost. He also had 52 receptions for 316 yards and a touchdown. In the playoffs against the Rams, Bucks, and Niners, he had 29 rushes for 144 yards, a 5.0 average yards per carry, 3 touchdowns, 1 fumble, 1 lost, and 11 receptions for 94 yards. He was a Pro Bowler as a rookie, which is nice, and he was fourth in Offensive Rookie of the Year. Another guy, definitely got to watch for. Definitely will be impactful, and I will see. I do believe Detroit has good chances here. If they can make it over the hump, they can win a Super Bowl or even make it to the Super Bowl. So it's good news. It's great news for Detroit. Detroit Lions fans, it's a good time to be a fan, man. All right. Next is Isiah Pacheco, honorable mention out of the Chiefs. First of all, he runs hard. He runs hard. He's a bruiser, dude. Definitely runs angrily, which is exciting to watch. And I mean, his idol is Marshawn Lynch. That says it all. And I really do love that style of running. It's hasn't been a thing for a while since he's retired, so it's kind of sad not seeing it. I mean, the closest thing has been a Derrick Henry, but he's just like a mega god with it. He's just extremely tall. I really enjoy the short running backs that are just tough as nails, and they get it done. They'll run through you, and they're ready to uh, knock you back off as a defender, man. I think that's just exciting plays in football, man. Isiah Pacheco is definitely entertaining and definitely an X factor for the Chiefs. 25 years old, 2 years in the league. He has 2 years, $2.11 million on his contract. 14 games he played, 205 carries for 935 yards, 4.6 average per carry, 7 touchdowns, 1 fumble, 1 lost, 44 receptions for 244 yards, 5.5 average per catch, and 2 touchdowns. Um, versus the Dolphins, the Bills, the Ravens, and eventually the Chiefs, or the Niners, excuse me. He had 81 rushes for 313 yards, 3.9 average per carry, 3 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, and 1 lost with 12 receptions and 60 yards. No accolades. I mean, definitely a guy that is not really handed the ball that much. When you have a Patrick Mahomes there, yeah, you're expected to do your job and get critical first downs. Get some critical runs. Make some great plays. But can he crack 1,000? Yeah, I do believe so. Will they use him more? I think they should. I think they will. But we'll see. This Chiefs team is loaded as it is. Pacheco, he's just an X factor in there, and people need to be more aware of him. Next up, we got Jerome Ford, honorable mention. I think a huge thing is he's underrated, first of all. He's had great years, especially when they really needed a secondary back. And I mean, they needed him more than anything right this season because of the Nick Chubb gruesome knee injury that he suffered against Pittsburgh. I think he did really well filling that hole. I'm not gonna say that he's a gonna be a top 10 guy, but I really do believe he is effective, just like David Montgomery is. He's got some underrated intangibles. Definitely a guy that you can put in a full game to get a decent amount of offense with in terms of receiving and running wise. I think he's smart. I think he's got high IQ. I think he really follows his blocks and kind of just lets the game kind of come to him, and that's pretty nice to see. Especially Cleveland having just two solid running backs. It's pretty decent, man. Uh, Got to respect that. Jerome Ford is 24 years old, 2 years in the league. He's got 2 years, $2.24 million on his contract. Played 17 games, had 204 carries, 813 yards, 4.0 yards, average yards per carry, 4 touchdowns, 1 fumble, 1 lost, and then he had 44 receptions for 319 yards and 5 touchdowns. Excuse me. The wildcard game against Houston, he had 9 rushes for 17 yards, 1.9 average per carry, 4 receptions for 15 yards. Struggling in that wildcard game, but at the same time, did play a Houston team that was just ready for it. Joe Flacco is not the Baltimore Raven Joe Flacco, so I mean, as much as he's been impressive, Houston just shut him down and shut that offense down. So, nothing to be ashamed about. No accolades, but definitely a running back that is decent and definitely you want to watch for, man. I think he's an underrated game changer. Definitely going to need him, especially with Nick Chubb recovering this next year. So, overall, yeah, decent guy, decent player. Okay, next we got a underrated rookie of this past year's draft class that I personally did not really know much about. Didn't really know who he was, but he made himself part of that U.S. Olympic track team out there in Miami with the Tyreek Hills, with the Mosterts, with the Jalen Waddles. Bring in Devon Akane. I mean, yeah, man, pure speed. Um, yeah, he's hard to bring down. He's also hard to chase down. Just pure speed on this dude. Definitely did a great job having him and Mostert. Um, kind of um, run that offense, that run game, and I think the future is bright with him. I think he should be a starting running back for the team. But I mean, as long as they have Mostert and his ability to run, and of course Akane over here. I think they'll be utilizing a lot of that. So will he get 1,000 rushing yards? Maybe in the future. As of right now, I think he's more of a kind of like splitting kind of back kind of system there. Overall, though, 22 years old, 1 year in the league, 3 years, $4.44 million on his rookie deal. 11 games that he played, 103 carries for 800 yards, 7.8 average per carry, 8 touchdowns, one fumble lost. He had 27 receptions for 197 yards and 3 touchdowns. Versus the Chiefs in that frigid game, he had 6 carries for 9 yards, 1.5 average per carry, and 3 receptions for 21 yards. Yeah, he got shut down, but it was cold, and it's the Chiefs. But Akane is a guy that, yeah, they're going to use a lot. I know they're excited to do that. He exploded on the scene. I hope he develops his game, and you know, you see him maybe on this countdown as a top 10 guy. Right, Jonathan Taylor, honorable mention. Last year he was number 6. Um, yeah, huge drop off for this guy, man. I am upset about it because Jonathan Taylor was, and I think still is, the ability of being such an entertaining football player. Great running back, man. Definitely a guy that you need to watch film on, and can take over some games, man. But the amount of games that he's missing is an issue, and for to be in a second year in a row is an issue. So I do drop him off to honorable mention, just because the amount of running backs that are here are very talented. There's a talented plethora of them, and some guys just deserve to be on it, man. Over him this year doesn't mean he can't get back on it. Jonathan Taylor's still young, still can prove it. He just needs to stay healthy. 25 years, 3 years in the league, 3 years, $41.78 million left in his contract. 10 games that he played, 169 carries for 741 yards, 4.4 average per carry, 7 touchdowns, one fumble. He also had 19 receptions for 153 yards and a touchdown. No accolades, no playoffs, no nothing like that. Just yeah, that's what he put up. That's what he put up. Overall, this is a guy that I think definitely will be back in the top 10. Hopefully, he stays healthy. I'd like to see a full season of Jonathan Taylor. Definitely entertaining, and yeah, just another underrated guy in Indianapolis. Now we got Alvin Kamara. Last year honorable mention. This year honorable mention. Needs to stay on the field for a full year. Definitely miss AK-47 out here. Or is he 41 now? But I think he was 47 at one point. Um, being that guy, man. Being that guy. Um, just putting up crazy numbers, Austin Eckler kind of numbers where he had 1,000 plus yard seasons. He also had 70 to 90 receptions, man, as a running back. It was crazy. Put up some great stats. Huge focal point of a Saints offense. Definitely has had the injury bug. He's definitely been suspended. I get it. Missed some games, but yeah, he needs to get back on top. The only way to do that is just playing the games, man. Playing the games and being the old Kamara that I know. 28 years old, 6 years in the league, 2 years, $47.62 million on his contract. 13 games that he played, 180 carries for 694 yards, 3.9 average per carry, 5 touchdowns, 75 receptions for 466 yards, and a touchdown. Again, the receptions are there. The yards, I know were a little better for him. Um, Definitely had more touchdowns, and obviously had 1,000 yards. You did not have that this year. I definitely believe in him. I think he can go back to a top 10 list, but right now, staying at honorable mention. Hey, last but certainly not least, Ramondre Stevenson. Last year honorable mention, this year honorable mention. It's like every New England Patriots running back. Their stats aren't eye popping, but the impact of the game is, and their ability is pretty good, man, pretty outstanding. Has flashes of some greatness up in there. Ramondre Stevenson, I believe he's a dog. I believe he's got a mentality of keep pushing, moving forward. Of don't get out of my way. Just get out of my way. I'm trying to get that first. I'm trying to get that extra yard. I'm trying to get that touchdown. Definitely entertaining dude. Definitely New England has they got the dark ages right now. But I think he's a nice little bright spot to that team. Overall, I think Drake May is going to utilize him. Definitely pass game, run game. He's got that ability, that impact. Definitely a guy that definitely could see his numbers going up, and I could see him cracking 1,000 rushing yards next season. Ramondre Stevenson, 26 years old, 2 years in the league, 1 year, $3.30 million on his contract. Um, 12 games played, 156 carries for 619 yards, 4.0 average yards per carry, 4 touchdowns, 1 fumble, 1 lost, 38 receptions for 238 yards, no touchdowns. Overall, great player. I know this video is long, guys. There's just a lot of honorable mention running backs that I had to get through. Just a lot of guys that impressed me this year. Definitely, I didn't think they needed to not be relevant. I think people need to check them out. I have the YouTube highlights for all these guys, so if you want to check them out, go for it. Definitely, give me some of your opinions on these guys. What do you think on these guys? What's their upside for you guys? Do you think they'll have a better year next year than they have? Better numbers, et cetera, et cetera. Definitely like, subscribe, please. Definitely more videos coming soon, and we'll be getting started that top 10 running back list. Yeah, probably rarely pretty soon. So thanks for watching.